adjust this camera. So hello, dear community. Today is October the 12th, and this is Sister Clear Grace, bowing in from the Great Aspiration, the Mobile Monastery. I want to apologize as I missed yesterday's daily sutta reading, and the intention of the daily sutta reading is part of my daily schedule, but as there are causes and conditions that come up with being a mobile monastery, sometimes the schedule is not so consistent, and I'm learning to adjust and have patience with that. So I do apologize, but at the same time, the sutta reading, it's a practice that I'm taking up for myself, so I also find ease in that, but certainly in a place where I wanted to be able to bring this to you today, as it's a wonderful part of my daily practice, so I want to continue to share, and I hope that conditions do allow for that to be possible on a daily basis. Please do know that I am still working out a schedule, so I ask your patience and understanding in that. Thank you, dear Sangha. So today we will be reading Sutta number 6 in the Majjhima Nikaya, Akankheyya Sutta, if a bhikkhu should wish. And we had just read Anagana Sutta from the Venerable Sariputta without blemishes prior to this. So I would like to see if we can get into possibly yesterday's reading this afternoon, and should things allow, we can move on to Sutta number 7 this evening. Let me begin. Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove in Natapindika's Park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, Venerable Sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this. Bhikkhus dwell possessed of virtue, possessed of the patimokkha, restrained with the restraint of the patimokkha, perfect in conduct, right? So sila, or our morality, and resort, and seeing fear in the slightest fault, trained by undertaking the training precepts, so that of the Vinaya, the patimokkha. So here we're talking about our sila, our morality, and how we are in our virtue and our conduct. The Buddha really gives us that right from the beginning. And seeing fear in the slightest fault, right? So these constant rebirthing actions and how we can be carried away by our clinging and attachment. So seeing our faults in just our slightest, the most minuscule thinking, right? And not just with our body and speech, but also with our mind and our thought, to really be aware of that and to lean away from those unwholesome kusala thoughts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I be dear and agreeable to my companions in the holy life, respected and esteemed by them. Let him fulfill the precepts, be devoted to internal serenity of mind, not neglect meditation, to be possessed of insights and dwell in empty huts, right? So our ability to transgress and to practice, so that those noble ones in the community of the Sangha hold us in an esteemed light, in a respectful light. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I be one to obtain robes, alms food, resting place, and medicinal requisites. Let him fulfill the precepts. Let him be good in conduct. If a bhikkhu should wish, may the services of those whose robes, alms food, resting place, and medicinal requisites I use bring them great fruit and benefit. Let him fulfill the precepts, to be in one accord with our precepts. Hello, welcome, thank you. Let me read that again. If a bhikkhu should wish, may the services of those whose robes, alms food, resting place, and medicinal requisites I use bring them great fruit and benefit. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, when my kinsmen and relatives who have passed away and died and remembered me with confidence in their minds, may that bring them great fruit and great benefit. Let him fulfill the precepts. So the precepts are there to lead us and to lead us on the path in this conduct, and to be self-esteemed amongst the holy ones, amongst our clansmen, amongst our family members, so that when we do pass away, to let us be held in that light. And again, at the end, the Buddha is saying, let him fulfill the precepts as this foundation, our morality, our sila, as the guide to hold us and keep us along in that way. If a bhikkhu should wish, when my kinsmen and relatives who have passed away and died remembered me with confidence in their minds, may that bring them great fruit and great benefit. Let him fulfill the precepts. Also another way of saying how self and others. So in coming to practice our precepts, not only are we helping ourselves, but also those around us. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I become a conqueror of discontent and delight, and may discontent not conquer me. May I abide transcending discontent whenever it arises. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I become a conqueror of fear and dread, and may fear and dread not conquer me. And interesting, because we had read Sutta number 4 a few days ago on fear and dread, and how being unpurified in conduct and in our body, that fear and dread can arise, right? So this idea of our morality, how we carry ourselves in virtue and the precepts and sila, will also help to help us propel further in the right efforts, right? In the 4 right efforts, so that fear and dread is less likely to arise. And then here, when the Buddha, this is also to the monastics, but remember that the bhikkhus were also bhikkhunis and lay practitioners, male and female practitioners. So whether we're taking up the 5 precepts, or the 10 wholesome virtues, or the bhikkhuni precepts, or the bhikkhu precepts, this is always our guide. Let him fulfill the precepts. So we can look at this in our own life as well. It's not just as a bhikkhu or as a monk. May he abide transcending fear and dread whenever they arise. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I become one to obtain a will without trouble or difficulty, the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind and provide a pleasant abiding here and now. Let him fulfill the precepts, right? So in order for us to walk the path of these jhanas and understand these mind states, it's important that we have our foundation of our virtue and our conduct, and body and mind and speech, and our thoughts and the way that we carry ourselves. So if a bhikkhu should wish, may I contact with the body and abide in those liberations that are peaceful and immaterial, transcending forms. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I, with the destruction of the 3 fetters, become a stream enterer, no longer subject to tradition, bound for deliverance, headed for enlightenment. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I, with the destruction of the 3 fetters, and with the attenuation of lust, hate, and delusion, become a once returner, returning once to this world to make an end of suffering. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I, with the destruction of the 5 lower fetters, become due to reappear spontaneously in the pure abodes, and there attain final nibbana without ever returning from that world. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I wield the various kinds of supernormal power. Having been one, may I become many. Having been many, may I become one. May I appear and vanish. May I go unhindered through a wall, through an enclosure, through a mountain as though through space. May I dive in and out of the earth as though it were water. May I walk on water without sinking as though it were earth. Seated cross-legged, may I travel in space like a bird with my hand. May I touch and stroke the moon and sun so powerful and mighty. May I wield bodily mastery, even as far as the Brahma world. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I, with the divine ear element, which is purified and surpasses the human, hear both kinds of sounds, the divine and the human, those that are far as well as near. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I understand the minds of other beings, of other persons. Having encompassed them with my own mind, may I understand a mind affected by lust, as affected by lust, and a mind unaffected by lust, as unaffected by lust. May I understand a mind affected by hate as affected by hate, and a mind unaffected by hate as unaffected by hate. May I understand a mind affected by delusion as affected by delusion, and a mind unaffected by delusion as unaffected by delusion. May I understand a contracted mind as contracted, and a distracted mind as distracted. May I understand an exalted mind as an exalted mind, and an unexalted mind as an unexalted mind. May I understand a surpassed mind as surpassed, and an unsurpassed mind as unsurpassed. May I understand a concentrated mind as a concentrated mind, and an unconcentrated mind as unconcentrated. May I understand a liberated mind as liberated, and unliberated mind as unliberated. Let him fulfill the precepts. So in this way, in coming to understand ourselves and in our own mind, this is such a beautiful practice, especially as we are in the world, right, in a worldly way, and we come upon so many different things, to not judge the character, not to judge the character of the person, but to understand the mind state, and to know that that mind state is also of us or of ourselves, and to not judge that, to not, oh, that is an unconcentrated mind, and that person has no concentration, they haven't practiced their sila or their morality, they might not be in accordance with the precepts, right? To just understand and have a compassion, and to be one with an understanding of that mind. So knowing that a defiled mind is a defiled mind, and that also is of me, right? So this is why we lean towards the wholesome, so that we can continue to walk on this path. So this here, number 16, this really can be a wonderful practice that we take into our daily life to truly understand, and that should grow us in an expansion of our heart. We should be propelling forward in a way of loving kindness and embodying this this Brahma Vihara, right? This limitless states of mind. Just truly being able to understand our minds and the minds of others, and have compassion and understanding in that way. If the bhikkhu should wish, may I recollect my manifold past lives. That is one birth, two births, thus with their aspects and their particulars. May I recollect my manifold past lives. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I with the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, see being passing away and reappearing, inferior and superior, fair and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate. May I understand how beings pass on according to their actions thus. Let him fulfill the precepts. If a bhikkhu should wish, may I be realizing for myself with direct knowledge here and now, enter upon and abide the deliverance of mind, and deliverance by wisdom, that are taintless with the destructions of the taints. Let him fulfill the precepts. Be devoted to internal serenity of mind, not neglect meditation, be possessed of insight, and dwell in empty huts. So it was with reference to this that it was said, Bhikkhus, dwell possessed of virtue, possessed of virtue, possessed of the patimokkha, restrained with the restraint of the patimokkha, perfect in conduct and resort, and seeing fear in the slightest fault, trained by undertaking the precepts. That is what the Blessed One said. The bhikkhus were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. Yes, restrain in the restraint of the patimokkha. So the patimokkha and the vinaya and the training rules are a freedom. Yeah, so our choice of words sometimes, when we think restrain, it actually becomes a renunciation, a type of letting go, a no longer wish, no longer a need to walk towards an unwholesome direction. So the frame of the patimokkha can actually liberate us and give us a freedom, because it holds us in a way that we are no longer pulling like a tug of war. So there's a freedom in the patimokkha. You can find this training in the precepts as a way of liberating ourselves and just opening up to so much more vastness. A wonderful sutta, a wonderful training for us to keep returning back to, continuously coming back to. There was something else here too. So I wanted to share a little bit about the not about seeing our manifold lives, but understanding how beings pass according to their actions, and just not in impermanence and in death, but right in our daily actions. So our karmic path that we lay in, each pebble of that path, each stain, each right now, right? What's happening right now? What are we doing right now, and right now? And how are we rebirthing that by our actions, our mind, and our thought? And also, too, I want to speak a little bit about on the first precept as we're talking about mind. And we can also kill with looks, right? Or kill with our thoughts. So we often think, oh, well, we're good with that precept. Let's move on to number 2. Not many of us are walking around killing sentient beings. Or we think, oh, well, I'll just call the exterminator. But in a court of law, that an accomplice to murder, right? Or as we know, or it could be a hitman, right? So if you have pest control, if you have an issue, well, I'm not necessarily taking life, I'll just call the pest control. So we have to be really careful, I like to say, not to get it twisted, not to taint the Dharma, not to bend the Dharma. It's our minds and our ways of being that should be malleable, not the Dharma. And how we come to this particular way of being. So when we hold our precepts, we have to hold them also in great conduct and great respect. And we have to know also where we need them and where we need to hold them tighter, and where maybe we might be able to lay them aside and not carry them forward in a way that just needs to be forefront. Because we can do a really good job at twisting our minds and telling ourselves that we're following these precepts, but we can always do more. And I just wanted to share that a little bit about that. Like, if our thoughts could kill, right? If our looks could kill. So really, it's our mind conduct as well, not just embodied speech and our actions. So don't look too deeply into the words, into the translation. Thank you, dear community. I'm so happy to be able to have this opportunity to share and read the suttas as I'm learning, and that you are here with me. And I see that Hay asks to do the Digha Nikaya. Well, we are on Sutta number 6 of the Majjhima Nikaya. Yes, Amanda, shall we be fortunate to follow through with this and be able to come across this Dharma in a daily life? We will soon get to the Digha Nikaya. So thank you. Clear grace, bowing out.